A paraplegic ex-firefighter fights in court for custody of his heroic rescue dog. Amid growing tension, the animal suddenly becomes alert, focusing on the courtroom door. When it abruptly opens, what emerges leaves everyone in complete shock, changing the course of everything. The imposing facade of the New York State Supreme Court building looms against a steel-gray January sky, its marble columns standing like silent sentinels. Inside courtroom 2B, the morning light filters through tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floors and ornate oak panels that line the walls. At the heart of this austere setting sits James "Jim" Sullivan, a former FDNY firefighter, his wheelchair positioned with military precision beside his attorney's table. His service dog Max, a seasoned German shepherd with intelligent amber eyes and a distinguished grey muzzle, maintains a protective stance beside him. The dog's official FDNY vest, adorned with medals and service patches, tells its own story of countless lives saved. The gallery is filled with a mix of active and retired firefighters, their dress blues a sharp contrast to the dark suits of the government officials scattered throughout the room. The air is thick with tension, carrying whispered conversations and the occasional creak of wooden benches as spectators shift in their seats. Through the tall windows, the Manhattan skyline stretches toward the horizon, a testament to the very structures Jim and Max once protected. The courthouse's heating system hums softly, barely masking the sound of Max's steady breathing as he maintains his vigilant watch over his partner. At the judge's bench, the American flag hangs motionless, its stars and stripes a silent witness to the drama about to unfold. The morning sun catches the polished surface of Jim's wheelchair and the silver in Max's fur, creating a poignant tableau of man and dog united in their fight against an unseen adversary. James Sullivan, 42, sits straight-backed in his wheelchair, his broad shoulders and muscular arms testament to his 15 years of service with the FDNY. Despite the paralysis that claimed his legs 2 years ago, his presence commands attention. His face, weathered by countless hours battling infernos, bears both physical and emotional scars, yet his steel blue eyes remain sharp and determined. The former Squad 1 lieutenant's fingers absently trace the service medal pinned to his dress uniform, a reminder of that fateful night at the Riverside Apartments. Max, his 8-year-old German Shepherd partner, is a legend within the department. Distinguished by a unique white patch on his chest shaped like a flame, he's completed over 300 successful rescue operations. His training with the FDNY's elite K9 unit made him exceptional, but it's his almost supernatural ability to sense danger that made him extraordinary. The bond between Max and Jim transcends typical handler-dog relationships. They move as one unit, communicating through subtle gestures and glances honed over 6 years of service together. District Attorney Sarah Mitchell, a sharp-minded woman in her mid-50s, stands at the prosecution table. Her wire-rimmed glasses and meticulously pressed charcoal suit project efficiency, but there's an underlying unease in her posture. Her case files, typically immaculate, show signs of last-minute additions and hasty annotations, suggesting unexpected complications in what should have been a routine reassignment hearing. At the back of the courtroom, Agent Thomas Blackwood stands with calculated nonchalance. His government-issue suit and earpiece mark him as federal, but something about his bearing suggests military training. His 2 colleagues, positioned strategically near the exits, maintain a studied air of disinterest that doesn't quite mask their vigilance. Blackwood's eyes never leave Max, studying the dog's every movement with an intensity that suggests more than casual interest. Judge Eleanor Winters presides over the proceedings, her 30 years on the bench evident in the graceful authority she commands. Her reputation for protecting civil rights precedes her, though she's never encountered a case quite like this. Her weathered hands rest on a peculiar stack of classified documents, their red top secret stamps visible even from the gallery. Defense attorney Michael Chen, a former military JAG officer turned civil rights advocate, organizes his notes with precise movements. His decision to take this case pro bono raised eyebrows in his prestigious firm. But the Yale law graduate has a personal connection to service animals. His own father, a Vietnam veteran, was saved by a military dog. The slight tremor in his hands as he arranges his papers betrays the weight of what he's discovered in his late-night research about the government's secret K-9 program. The routine reassignment hearing takes an unexpected turn when Max suddenly stiffens, his ears perking forward. Jim recognizes the subtle change in his partner's demeanor, the same alert posture that preceded countless successful rescues. The dog's focus fixes intently on the courtroom's oak doors, a low, almost inaudible whine escaping his throat. Before anyone can react, 3 men in dark suits enter the courtroom. The lead figure, Agent Blackwood, moves with calculated precision toward the judge's bench, producing a folder stamped with federal seals. The atmosphere shifts palpably as he announces, "Your Honor, I'm here representing a matter of national security." Max's behavior becomes more pronounced, not aggressive, but alertive, his training kicking in as if he's detecting something beyond normal human perception. Jim's hand instinctively reaches for his partner's fur, feeling the slight tremor running through the dog's body. The same tremor Max exhibited moments before the Riverside apartment's structure collapsed. Judge Winters pauses, her gaze shifting between the new arrivals and the increasingly agitated service dog. The standard custody hearing has suddenly evolved into something far more complex. As Judge Winters calls the court to order, an unexpected commotion erupts. Max, typically the epitome of calm, suddenly rises, his ears pricked and body tense. Jim, attuned to his partner's behavior, notices the change immediately. The dog's gaze is fixed on the courtroom doors, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Before anyone can react, 3 men in dark suits burst through the entrance. The leader, Agent Blackwood, strides forward, flashing a badge. "Your Honor, I'm Agent Blackwood, Department of Homeland Security. We're requisitioning this animal for matters of national security." Blackwood's reply is terse. "Classified, Your Honor. This dog possesses abilities critical to ongoing federal operations." As the courtroom settles into an uneasy calm, Jim Sullivan's mind races back to the day he first met Max. It was during a routine training exercise at the FDNY Academy, where the young German Shepherd stood out for his exceptional focus and intuition. Jim remembers the instant connection he felt, a bond that would be tested and strengthened through years of service. Flashbacks of their most challenging rescues flood Jim's mind. The subway tunnel collapse, where Max located survivors trapped beneath tons of rubble. The multi-story warehouse fire, where the dog led Jim through blinding smoke to save a family. Countless missing person searches, where Max's uncanny abilities seem to defy explanation. Jim's grip on his wheelchair tightens as he recalls their final mission together. The Riverside apartment's inferno had already claimed several lives when they arrived on scene. Despite the chaos, Max's behavior was different that night, more urgent, almost frantic. Jim now realizes that the dog had sensed something beyond the immediate danger, perhaps the impending structural collapse that would change both their lives forever. The memory of Max dragging him from the burning building, refusing to leave his side, even as firefighters attempted to pull the dog away, brings a lump to Jim's throat. During the long, painful months of rehabilitation, it was Max's unwavering presence that kept Jim from succumbing to despair. The dog adapted seamlessly to Jim's new limitations, anticipating his needs and providing both physical and emotional support. As Jim looks at Max now, standing protectively beside his wheelchair, he sees more than a service animal or even a former partner. He sees family, the one constant in a life turned upside down by tragedy and now threatened by forces he doesn't fully understand. Agent Blackwood's stern demeanor softens momentarily as he observes the bond between Jim and Max. A flicker of recognition crosses his face. hinting at a personal connection to service animals. He begins to explain, his voice low and measured, what you've witnessed with Max, his ability to sense danger before it happens, to find survivors where technology fails. It's not just exceptional training, it's something we've only seen in a handful of animals worldwide. Sarah Mitchell, the district attorney, interjects, her professional composure wavering. I was told this was a simple reassignment case. What exactly are we dealing with here? Her eyes dart between Blackwood and the classified files on the judge's bench, realizing the full scope of the situation is beyond her initial brief. Judge Winters, sensing the gravity of the moment, leans forward. Mr. Sullivan, I need you to understand the complexities at play here. This isn't just about custody anymore. Her tone is compassionate but firm, years of judicial experience evident in her measured words. Michael Chen, Jim's attorney, steps closer to his client. His military background kicks in, recognizing the hallmarks of a classified operation. Jim, he whispers, whatever they're after, it's big. We need to tread carefully. Chen's mind races, connecting dots between his research into covert K9 programs and the agent's sudden appearance. As the tension mounts, Max's behavior shifts subtly. His alertness doesn't wane, but he presses closer to Jim, as if physically reaffirming their bond. Jim absently strokes Max's fur, a gesture that has become second nature over years of partnership. Jim's voice, when he finally speaks, is quiet but resolute. Max isn't just a dog, and he's certainly not government property. He's my partner, my family. His eyes meet Blackwood's, a silent challenge in his gaze. Whatever abilities he has, whatever you think you need him for, it doesn't change that fact. The courtroom atmosphere grows increasingly tense as Agent Blackwood presents his case. Your Honor, he begins, his voice carrying an undercurrent of urgency. Max's abilities go far beyond standard search and rescue. We have documented instances of him predicting natural disasters hours before they occur, detecting biochemical threats undetectable by our most advanced equipment, and locating missing persons in situations that defy logical explanation. Blackwood produces a series of photographs and reports, each more astonishing than the last. This dog's capabilities are not just extraordinary, they're vital to national security. We're facing threats that conventional methods can't address. Max could save thousands, potentially millions of lives. Jim's attorney, Michael Chen, rises to counter. While the government's interest is understandable, we cannot ignore the legal and ethical implications. Max is not a piece of equipment to be requisitioned. He's a living being with established bonds and a home. Mr. Sullivan's rights as Max's handler and caregiver must be considered. Chen presents documentation of Jim and Max's service record, emphasizing their symbiotic relationship. Separating them could be detrimental not only to Mr. Sullivan's well-being, but potentially to Max's abilities as well. Their connection is integral to Max's exceptional performance. As the arguments escalate, Max becomes visibly agitated, whining softly and pressing closer to Jim's wheelchair. Jim, reading his partner's behavior, interjects, "Your Honor, something's wrong. Max is sensing something." Judge Winters calls for order, but before she can speak, a low rumble shakes the building. Moments later, an aide rushes in, whispering urgently to the judge. Her face pales as she announces, "The court must be evacuated immediately. There's been a terror threat reported in the area." Chaos erupts as people rush for the exits. In the confusion, Jim notices Max pulling insistently towards a side door, one typically used for judges' chambers. "Wait!" Jim calls out, his voice cutting through the panic. "Max is trying to tell us something. This way might be safer." As the courtroom occupants hesitate, torn between standard evacuation procedures and trusting a service dog, another, stronger tremor shakes the building. Debris begins to fall from the ceiling, and the main exit suddenly becomes blocked by fallen masonry. Jim, guiding his wheelchair with one hand and holding onto Max's harness with the other, leads the group towards the side exit. The dog moves with purpose, navigating through the increasingly unstable building with uncanny precision. As the group follows Max through the labyrinthine corridors of the courthouse, the situation grows increasingly dire. The building shudders with aftershocks, and the acrid smell of smoke begins to fill the air. Jim, expertly maneuvering his wheelchair with one hand while guiding Max with the other, leads the way with a determination born from years of facing danger head-on. Agent Blackwood, his earlier authoritative demeanor replaced by grudging respect, assists in clearing debris from Jim's path. "Sullivan," he shouts over the growing cacophony of alarms and crumbling masonry. "I've seen a lot in my career, but nothing like this. Your dog, he's extraordinary." As they navigate through smoke-filled hallways, Max suddenly stops, refusing to move forward. Jim recognizes the behavior immediately. It's the same stance Max took moments before the collapse at Riverside Apartments. "Everyone back!" Jim yells, just as the ceiling ahead caves in, blocking their intended exit. Jim looks to Max, their years of partnership allowing for silent communication. The dog turns, leading them down a narrow, seldom-used stairwell. As they descend, the air grows thicker with smoke, and breathing becomes laborious. Reaching the ground floor, they find the main exits blocked by fire and debris. The heat is intense, and time is running out. Max, however, remains focused, leading the group towards a small, almost hidden maintenance door. As Blackwood and Chen work on the door, Jim notices Max's attention drawn to a far corner of the room. Following the dog's gaze, he spots an unconscious security guard nearly hidden behind a fallen filing cabinet. Without hesitation, Max darts towards the guard, barking to draw attention. Jim, in a feat of strength born from adrenaline and years of upper body training, manages to push his wheelchair through the debris, reaching the guard just as Max begins to drag him by his uniform. As they help everyone through the small opening, Jim finds himself face to face with Agent Blackwood. The agent's expression is a mix of awe and realization. "I see now," Blackwood says, his voice barely audible above the chaos. "Separating you two. It was never an option, was it?" As the group emerges from the smoke-filled building into the chaos of the street, the full scale of the emergency becomes apparent. Emergency vehicles crowd the area, their sirens wailing as first responders rush to evacuate surrounding buildings. The acrid smell of smoke mingles with the tension in the air, creating a scene reminiscent of Jim's days as an active firefighter. Max, still alert and focused, stays close to Jim's wheelchair, his eyes scanning the environment for potential threats. Jim's firefighter instincts kick in as he quickly assesses the situation, noting escape routes and potential danger zones. Agent Blackwood, coughing and dusting off his suit, immediately takes charge. He flashes his badge to the approaching police officers, quickly explaining the situation. "We need a secure perimeter and immediate medical attention for the injured," he barks, his training overriding any lingering doubts about Max's abilities. Judge Winters, visibly shaken but maintaining her composure, turns to Jim. "Mr. Sullivan, I believe we owe you and Max our lives. Your actions today—" She pauses, her usual judicial detachment cracking slightly. "They've certainly put things into perspective." Sarah Mitchell, the district attorney, nods in agreement, her earlier stance on Max's reassignment clearly shaken. "I've never seen anything like it. The way Max led us out, it was almost as if he could see through the smoke and predict the building's collapse." As paramedics rush to attend to the injured security guard and other members of the group affected by smoke inhalation, Jim finds himself at the center of attention. Reporters, drawn by the commotion, begin to gather, their cameras flashing as they capture images of the wheelchair-bound former firefighter and his heroic dog. Michael Chen, seizing the moment, addresses the growing crowd. "What you've witnessed today is not just heroism, but the unbreakable bond between a man and his service animal. This is about more than legal ownership. It's about partnership, loyalty, and saving lives." As the initial chaos subsides, the gravity of what transpired begins to sink in. Jim, still processing the events, notices Max's behavior shifting. The dog's alertness hasn't diminished, but his focus has turned towards a specific direction down the street. Jim's years of experience with Max tell him this isn't over. Blackwood, initially skeptical, looks from Jim to Max and back again. The dog's intense focus and Jim's unwavering certainty cause him to pause. Making a quick decision, he pulls out his phone and barks rapid orders into it. As emergency services scramble to respond to the unfolding crisis, Jim finds himself and Max at the center of an impromptu command post. His expertise as a former firefighter, combined with Max's extraordinary abilities, suddenly become crucial assets. Chen nods, his legal mind already racing. Your Honor, given the circumstances, I believe we have grounds to argue for an emergency injunction against any attempt to separate Mr. Sullivan and Max. Their partnership is clearly in the public interest. As the situation continues to evolve, it becomes increasingly clear that Jim and Max's unique partnership might be the key to averting a larger disaster. The bond between man and dog, forged in fire and tested in crisis, stands as a beacon of hope in the face of an unprecedented threat. The makeshift command center buzzes with frantic activity as reports of new attacks flood in from across the city. Amid the chaos, Jim and Max become the calm at the eye of the storm. Agent Blackwood, now fully convinced of their capabilities, turns to Jim. Sullivan, we need your expertise. Can Max help us locate the source of these attacks? Blackwood hesitates, considering the risks, but nods in agreement. Let's move out. The team moves out, a strange procession of federal agents, a man in a wheelchair, and a determined German shepherd. They navigate through streets filled with panicked civilians and overwhelmed first responders. Max leads the way, his behavior growing more intense with each block. Suddenly, Max stops, his posture rigid. Jim recognizes the sign immediately. "Everyone take cover," he shouts, just as an explosion rips through a nearby building. Debris rains down, but thanks to Max's warning, no one is hurt. Blackwood and his team approach cautiously, but before they can reach it, the van's engine roars to life. It peels away, tires screeching on the asphalt. In a split-second decision, Blackwood orders one of his agents to assist Jim into an SUV. Max jumps in, positioning himself protectively next to his partner. As they give chase through the chaotic city streets, Jim keeps one hand on Max, reading the dog's subtle cues to guide their pursuit. The van weaves through traffic, clearly driven by someone with intimate knowledge of the city's layout. But Max's senses prove sharper than any GPS. With Jim translating Max's signals, they stay on the trail. "Stop the car," Jim commands. Max senses something big. "Whatever we're dealing with, it's in there and it's dangerous." Blackwood nods gravely. "You're right. But Sullivan, you need to understand, this goes beyond anything we've faced. Are you absolutely sure you and Max are up for this?" The team infiltrates the industrial complex, moving with calculated precision. Jim, maneuvering his wheelchair with practiced ease, keeps one hand on Max's harness. The dog leads them through the labyrinth of abandoned warehouses, his acute senses on high alert. Suddenly, Max freezes, his ears perked forward. Jim signals for everyone to stop. In the eerie silence, a faint beeping becomes audible. "Explosives," Jim whispers, his firefighter training kicking in. And from the smell, some kind of chemical agent. Before he can finish, Max darts forward, pulling Jim with him. Years of trust compel Jim to follow his partner's lead. They round a corner to find a massive setup of computers and chemical vats. At the center stands a figure in a hazmat suit, frantically working at a control panel. Time seems to slow. Jim watches as the figure's thumb moves towards the switch. In that split second, he makes a decision that defies logic but feels instinctively right. Chaos erupts. Blackwood and his team rush to subdue the suspect. Jim wheels forward, his eyes scanning for the fallen switch. He spots it teetering on the edge of a grate. If it falls, the slightest jolt could trigger it. Without hesitation, Jim propels his wheelchair forward. He reaches out, straining against his physical limitations. His fingers brush the switch just as it begins to fall. In a moment of superhuman effort, Jim lunges from his chair, grabbing the switch mere inches from the grate. Blackwood rushes over, carefully taking the switch from Jim's trembling hand. "My God, Sullivan," he breathes, awe evident in his voice. "You and Max, you just saved the entire city." Jim, still on the ground, wraps his arms around Max, burying his face in the dog's fur. Tears of relief, pain, and overwhelming emotion flow freely. "Good boy," he whispers, his voice choked. "The best boy." As the dust settles and medical teams attend to Jim, Agent Blackwood receives an urgent call. His face grows grave as he listens, occasionally glancing at Jim and Max. After ending the call, he approaches them, his demeanor a mix of respect and concern. "Sullivan," Blackwood begins, his voice low, "what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. That wasn't just a terrorist we stopped. It was a rogue government scientist, Dr. Eleanor Reeves. She was part of a covert program studying enhanced animal intelligence." Jim's eyes widen as he processes this information. Blackwood continues, "Reeves believed she could amplify animals' natural abilities to create super soldiers for military applications, but her methods were deemed too extreme, too dangerous. When the project was shut down, she went off the grid." Blackwood nods slowly. "We believe so. Reeves must have released some of her test subjects before disappearing. Max's extraordinary abilities, his almost psychic connection with you, it all fits. But here's the thing, Sullivan. Max isn't just special because of some experiment. It's his bond with you that makes him truly extraordinary." As Jim absorbs this information, Max nuzzles his hand, as if sensing his partner's turmoil. Jim scratches behind Max's ears, a gesture of comfort for both of them. Jim's grip on Max's harness tightens. "What are you saying, Agent Blackwood?" Jim's mind reels from the implications of Blackwood's words. He looks at Max, seeing not just his loyal companion, but a living testament to scientific breakthrough and potential government exploitation. "So what happens now?" Jim asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Blackwood sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Officially, I'm supposed to bring Max in for evaluation. But after what I've seen today, I can't in good conscience separate you two. Your bond, it's not just emotional, it's integral to Max's abilities." "There's something else," Blackwood continues, his tone becoming more urgent. "Dr. Reeves' research suggests that the enhancements she made might be unstable. Without the right care, without the bond Max has formed with you, there could be unforeseen consequences." Blackwood nods grimly. "Potentially, but you're also the best chance he has. Your connection seems to stabilize him, to give focus to his abilities." Both Jim and Blackwood turn to her, surprised. Judge Winters continues, "Given the extraordinary circumstances and the clear public interest in keeping Mr. Sullivan and Max together, I'm prepared to issue an emergency ruling. It would legally classify your partnership as essential for national security, making any attempt to separate you a federal offense." Jim's eyes widen in disbelief. Blackwood, after a moment's consideration, nods slowly. "That could actually work. It would give us legal grounds to protect them both." Blackwood's expression turns resolute. "That, Mr. Sullivan, might be your next mission if you're up for it." The courthouse, now repaired and bustling with activity, hosts a special hearing. Jim, seated in his wheelchair with Max faithfully by his side, faces a panel of government officials, legal experts, and military personnel. The atmosphere is tense, but filled with a sense of possibility. Judge Winters, presiding over the hearing, addresses the assembly. "What we've witnessed goes beyond the scope of our normal legal framework. Mr. Sullivan and Max have demonstrated a partnership that is not just extraordinary, but vital to public safety and national security." As murmurs ripple through the courtroom, Agent Blackwood steps forward. "In light of recent events and the unique abilities demonstrated by Mr. Sullivan and Max, We propose the formation of a new, specialized unit. This team would be dedicated to locating and assisting other enhanced animals from Dr. Reeves's program, ensuring their safety and the safety of the public. Jim, feeling the weight of the moment, speaks up. Your Honor, if I may, at Judge Winter's nod, he continues, Max and I, we've been given a second chance. If we can use our partnership to help others like Max, to prevent them from being exploited or misused, then that's exactly what we want to do. The courtroom falls silent as Jim's words resonate. Judge Winters leans forward, her expression softening. Mr. Sullivan, your willingness to take on this responsibility is commendable. Does the panel have any objections to this proposal? After a moment of hushed discussion, the panel unanimously agrees. Agent Blackwood, a hint of a smile on his usually stern face, announces, the Department of Homeland Security, in conjunction with other relevant agencies, will provide full support and resources for this new unit. Mr. Sullivan and Max will lead the effort, with oversight from a specially appointed committee. Sarah Mitchell, the district attorney who had initially argued for Max's reassignment, stands up. Your Honor, in light of these extraordinary circumstances, my office withdraws all previous motions regarding Max's custody. Furthermore, we'd like to offer our full cooperation with Mr. Sullivan's new mission. Judge Winters nods approvingly. Very well. By the power vested in me, I hereby establish the Sullivan-Max Special Operations Unit, dedicated to the location, rescue, and rehabilitation of enhanced animals. This unit will operate under the joint jurisdiction of Homeland Security and a civilian oversight committee. Jim places his hand on Max's head, feeling the familiar connection that has seen them through so much. He looks up, his voice filled with determination. Your Honor, Max and I have always been about saving lives and making a difference. This feels like what we were meant to do all along. We accept. As the courtroom proceedings conclude, a wave of emotion washes over Jim. The reality of their new mission, the weight of the responsibility, and the journey that brought them here all converge in a powerful moment. He looks down at Max, who gazes back with unwavering loyalty and understanding. Jim's voice breaks slightly as he addresses the room. You know, when I lost the use of my legs, I thought my days of making a difference were over. Max gave me back my purpose, my ability to help others, and now we have the chance to do that on a scale I never imagined possible. Agent Blackwood approaches, his usual stoic demeanor softened. Sullivan, what you and Max have, it's more than just a partnership. It's a testament to the incredible things that can happen when humans and animals truly connect. You're not just saving lives, you're changing how we see the potential in these relationships. Judge Winters steps down from the bench, addressing Jim directly. Mr. Sullivan, when this case first came to my court, I thought I was deciding the fate of a service animal. Instead, I've witnessed the birth of something truly extraordinary. Your journey with Max is going to inspire countless others. As Jim absorbs these words, he feels a mix of pride, humility, and a renewed sense of purpose. He looks around the courtroom, seeing not just legal professionals and government agents, but allies in a new and important mission. As the courtroom begins to clear, Jim finds himself surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. Sarah Mitchell approaches, her earlier skepticism replaced by genuine admiration. Mr. Sullivan, she begins, her voice filled with emotion, I owe you and Max an apology. I was so focused on regulations that I failed to see the extraordinary bond you share. Your actions have opened my eyes to a whole new perspective on service animals and their handlers. Jim nods, accepting her words with grace. Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. It's a journey we're all on together now. Overwhelmed by the young man's words, Jim feels tears welling up in his eyes. He reaches down to pat Max, drawing strength from his loyal companion. Thank you, he manages, his voice thick with emotion. But remember, I'm not the hero here. Max is. I'm just lucky enough to be his partner. As they make their way out of the courthouse, Jim and Max are greeted by a crowd of cheering supporters. News cameras flash, capturing the moment for the world to see. Jim realizes that their story has become more than just a legal case or a security matter. It's become a symbol of hope and the enduring power of the human-animal bond. In that moment, with Max by his side and a new purpose ahead, Jim feels a sense of fulfillment he never thought possible after his injury. They've not only overcome their personal challenges, but are now poised to make a difference on a grand scale. As the sun sets on this momentous day, Jim and Max find a quiet moment away from the cameras and crowds. They're in a small park near the courthouse, a peaceful oasis in the bustling city. Jim leans down from his wheelchair, wrapping his arms around Max in a heartfelt embrace. Max responds with a soft whine and a gentle lick to Jim's face, their bond stronger than ever. As they sit together, watching the city lights come to life, Jim reflects on their journey, from the fire that changed everything, through their struggles, to this new beginning. Agent Blackwood approaches, a rare smile on his face. "Sullivan, Max," he nods to both of them, "I just wanted to say, what you two have accomplished, it's going to change lives. Not just for the animals we'll be helping, but for everyone who hears your story. You're showing the world the true potential of human-animal partnerships." As they prepare to head home, Jim feels a renewed sense of hope and excitement for the future. Their new mission won't be easy, but with Max by his side, he knows they can face any challenge. In the weeks following the courthouse drama, Jim and Max's story captivates the nation. Their heroic actions during the terrorist threat, combined with the revelation of Max's enhanced abilities, spark a nationwide conversation about the potential of human-animal partnerships. The Sullivan-Max Special Operations Unit quickly takes shape, with support pouring in from various government agencies and animal welfare organizations. Their first mission involves locating a group of enhanced animals reportedly living in a remote forest area. The success of this operation not only saves several animals from potential exploitation, but also provides valuable data for understanding and caring for these unique creatures. Jim becomes a sought-after speaker, sharing his and Max's story at conferences and events across the country. Their journey inspires a new wave of research into animal cognition and the therapeutic benefits of human-animal bonds. Law enforcement and emergency services begin exploring programs to integrate more animals into their operations, using Jim and Max's partnership as a model. Throughout it all, the unbreakable bond between Jim and Max remains at the heart of their success, a testament to the power of trust, loyalty, and mutual understanding between humans and animals. 5 years later, Jim and Max stand before a new facility, the Sullivan-Max Center for Animal-Human Partnerships. This state-of-the-art research and training complex represents the culmination of their work. As they watch families, veterans, and service animals entering the building, Jim realizes they've not just changed their own lives, but have opened a new frontier in human-animal collaboration. Jim and Max's story reminds us of the extraordinary potential that lies in the bond between humans and animals. Whether it's adopting a shelter pet, supporting animal welfare organizations, or exploring animal-assisted therapy, there are countless ways to strengthen these connections in our own lives. Let their journey inspire you to discover the transformative power of animal companionship.